Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm your host, Mark, and joining me today on this journey down disease, rot, and decay, we got, hey, Brody, welcome.
There's I, the great and powerful, Diddly.
Bro Diddly. Now, I'll clarify for everyone listening, because this is a podcast. I did not invite people here based on how much they personally aligned with Nurgle, so get that out of your mind. None of us are gross degenerates. We're all Greek gods, more sculpted like Fulgrim than anything else. But
Ow.
we also got Gerald. Hey, how's it going?
Hello. I am definitely not Nurgle aligned, considering I am a healthcare worker. That's all I will say.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Makes
and
sense.
then the other thing we got to check before we start this episode: are any of us sick? Did any of us get actually blessed by Nurgle this day?
I have been blessed by Nurgle for the last 5 days, so I've been trying to cough him out, blow him out of my nose.
Okay, that's good.
He's
That's
getting
good.
out slowly.
I was praying that it would happen to one of them. I'm glad one of you guys. I'm glad it wasn't me. Last episode, I was dealing with Cheech, and my mind was scrambled. We were reading the same lines, and I just felt like I was in some type of cosmic terror loop, and it rattled my brain. So I'm glad somebody else is suffering from Nurgle's afflictions this episode. Welcome to Lorehammer, the podcast where we ramble. Sometimes we make some jokes, but we mostly like to just read the lore and then talk about it. Before we get into this Nurgle episode, let's do some housekeeping. I'm loosely looking for sound editors, and by this I mean I'm not looking for professionals. I'm not looking for anything fancy. I'm just looking for somebody who would be willing to put in a few hours a week and edit Lorehammer episodes. We like to just edit out some of the awkward pauses, like the one that Gerald and fucking Bro Diddly just gave me. Nice 10-second. They did it again and again. They keep. Okay, now I think they just hung up on me. Yeah, so we're just looking for people to edit out all that weirdness, and make everything sound super crisp and friendly. So if you're interested in helping out, just email me at lorehammerpodcast@gmail.com, or you could just reach out on the Discord.
Yep. And while you were helping out with the Imperial Tide and everything, come consider joining the Patreon. For just $2.50, you got ad-free versions on Spotify. For $5, you get ad-free versions of the live stream and all kinds of other fun perks. And you get notice whenever we're actually doing this kind of stuff. So what are you waiting for?
Absolutely. And the other thing that you got to keep in mind too is that we have a live stream. So for those of you that are not on the live stream right now, you're just listening to this months, years, decades down the road, may I say, you're really missing out, because you join the Patreon, you get access to a live chat room during the show, so you can talk with all the cool people on the chat, get ideas thrown out there. There's things that we see here on the show, and then at the end we get some call-in guests at the end of the episode of some of the people that are listening, and that actually really helps give more context to the audience and some of the different ideas that are out there. I know when I first started listening to Warhammer, I wish they had a live stream, because I would have called Mark out on how he pronounces some shit. I know every single person in that Discord group, every single person in that the Discord channel has heard him say Primarch, and I want to murder him every time he says it. He's gonna say it today. He's going to be like, the Primarch Mortarian. I'm going to be like...
How should I say it? What is the true right Canadian way to say it?
Primarch.
It's a Primarch. Come on, get it through your thick skull.
That's not just That's not just the Canadian way of saying it. That's the North American way of saying it. Thank you.
That's the North American
Say it correctly next time, or you're fired.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've been notorious for misreading, mispronouncing stuff, but hey, in the long run, at least I'm still human. So, while AI bots are better at reading than I am, at least I still am a human. So that's nice.
Perfect. But yeah, get on that live stream, everybody. Join the Patreon, get access to the live stream. It's a ton of fun. We love talking to you guys.
Yeah, like comments like this. Liar says everything Mark pronounces is canon. Get fucked, Brody. So
Oh,
Got called out in the
Oh, that'd be
chat.
hot.
Wow.
I just want to say too that
Pretty
I'm not
hot.
the one flashing these comments up on the screen. I think that's just divine providence. You know.
Oh, is it? There you
Yeah.
go.
This is all the blessings of grandfather Nurgle we're talking about.
Grandfather.
Cool. I'm excited for this episode. There's a lot of quotes in this episode. I think we're gonna do some fun accents and learn through just different languages. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Today we're doing Nurgle, Grandfather Nurgle, the Lord of Decay. He's got a bunch of different names and titles. And last episode we did Chinch, and halfway through the Chinch episode, I'm like, oh fuck, man, this needs to be 2 episodes at least. So like the last episode, this is kind of gonna be focused on Nurgle in his realm. We're going to talk about him in the warp. And the next episode is, or not the next one, but the next time we do Nurgle, it's going to be more about how Nurgle's followers kind of interact with him. What are the blessings? What are the curses? Why do they do it? Which ones are it? Like, I was reading about Chinchian night houses and how cool that would be. Maybe they have these cool like Helldrake wings on the back of an Imperial Knight and it's flying around the battlefield. Like, fuck yes, right?
Oh man, now I've got to get Chaos Knights. Like you guys are
Now I gotta.
Chaos Knights with dragon wings on the back. Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, exactly. So I kind of figured, we need to do this just and kind of break this into the 2 parts. So when we're talking about Nurgle today, yeah, we're going to mostly keep it to his realm and him and his demons and not so much his followers, but we do talk about a couple of them. Throughout the episode, though, we're going to talk about his manifestations, philosophy. There's some cool different philosophies and how he actually how their followers do interact with them loosely. Rivalries, something we talked about on the last episode was, if there's a rival, is there preferred? And we learned how Chinch kind of doesn't prefer Khorne, but he likes Khorne because he can manipulate him into more violence. Like, it's an easy, hey, Khorne, you want to go do some mayhem? Like, don't bend Khorne's arm behind his back, So the preferred kind of thing was a fun concept to go through. And then we'll go through a lot of his Nurglings or demons, including glitchlings, which were pretty cool. So yeah, big episode today. And let's dive into it.
Exciting.
This sounds like a lot of good kinds of tomfoolery and chicanery. So,
A lot of filth.
Nurgle, a lot of filth, a lot of cesspits. Anyways, Nurgle, the Lord of Decay, Grandfather Nurgle. Nurgle, one of the 4 great chaos gods, is the eternal sovereign of decay. He is known by many names, each a whisper of dissolution carried on the foul winds of entropy. His essence is woven into the fabric of existence itself, for nothing is beyond his touch. Mortality festers beneath his gaze, disease blossoms in his wake, and all things in time succumb to the embrace of ruin. Of all the ruinous powers, Nurgle's influence is the most intimate. He is present in every fevered breath, every festering wound, every moment of trembling weakness that racks the living. From the first sickly grasp of a newborn to the rasping final breath of the dying, his hand lingers unseen. No fortress is truly impenetrable, no body immune, no empire eternal. In the end, all crumble into filth, and so he is rightly called the Lord of all. Like all gods of chaos, Nurgle is the reflection of mortal emotion, his power rising from their fears and desires. It is not only the dread of death that feeds him, but the desperate will to resist it. This whispered prayers of a parent over a fever-stricken child, the pitiful bargaining of the dying for a few more hours of life. These are the marrow of his being. His power swells with each new plague, each new pestilence that sweeps across the stars, his influence spreading like a suppurating wound through the body of the galaxy. In times of great sickness, Nurgle's shadow eclipses even the blood god's hunger for slaughter. Yet even he ebbs, retreating into stagnation, awaiting the moment when the tide of filth will surge forth once more. Decay is not an end, but a cycle, festering, crumbling, and birthing the new horrors in its wake. Nothing in this universe escapes ruin. No empire stands forever. No throne remains untoppled. No life endures without succumbing to the ravages of time. Even the false emperor, cocooned in his withering throne, cannot escape his fate. The only question is what follows the fall. For every death there is renewal. The careless guardsman devoured by a catachan spiker becomes the seeds of a new predator. The rotting flesh of a ganger, slothed away in filth-ridden tunnels, nourishes the plague rats that gnaw and breed in the darkness. Even the disgraced rogue trader, stripped of wealth and title, must forge new pacts to carve out a future from the bones of the past. In the end, all things rot. But from the corpse of the old, life will always find a way to fester anew. I think this is a pretty good summation of Nurgle right here. Man, this Nurgle guy is sick. Yes, Jack. Very much agreed. And there is actually a song about him. We might talk about it if time permits at the end of the episode. So more on that later.
Yeah, it was a cool song. You showed me it, and I was like, yeah, that's sweet. What I liked about this was the Lord of All is one of his titles. And just like what Lyre said in the chat, I really like Nurgle because it is truly just represents an acceptance of death and decay. We're all just 6 feet under eventually. So why fight it? Join your father now. And then he gives a nice little ad there, which Nurgle ain't paying me to do. So I'm not reading that. But yeah, everyone dies. So we all give in to Nurgle eventually. But not all of us murder. Not all of us go down a mad cocaine-fueled excess hole, you know? So that's one thing, yeah, we will all have in common. Eventually, we'll all become followers of Nurgle.
Exactly. It's just the circle of life. That is what Nurgle is. It's the circle of life. Death, decay, life, death, decay, life. So, speaking of the Lord of Decay, in this universe, all rots. In this universe, one must rot to survive. Excerpt from the Enlightenment of Corvidi Calthrax, Harbinger of Carrion.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful.
I hope everybody loved and hated that.
Yeah, like I feel like there's wetness in my ears now. I know that's not possible, but
it's glorious. What are you talking about?
Right. It is this unyielding truth that all things wither, all things erode, that grants Nurgle his rightful title, the Lord of All. There is no action, no motion, no breath drawn or surrendered that does not, in the end, serve his design. His patience is boundless, for all things decay in their time, yet is not one to sit idly by and simply watch the cosmos crumble. No, the Plague Lord is filled with boundless vigor, a tireless artisan of entropy, ever eager to stir the cauldron of corruption. From the depths of his reeking manse, he toils with relentless joy, crafting plagues of flesh and spirit, virulent afflictions and insidious ideas, each a gift prepared with a father's love. These pestilences are set loose upon the mortal realm, a tide of ruin ever cresting. He does not resent resistance. On the contrary, he welcomes it. Every cure sown by desperate hands, every barrier erected in defiance of his work, teaches him new ways to unravel the futile efforts of his living. Every fleeting victory against his gifts is hollow, leaving the victors wounded, vulnerable, ripe for his embrace. The dance of struggle and surrender is but an extension of his grand design. For decay is not halted by denial, it is only delayed, and always at a great cost. Change is hesitation, nothing more. Defiance is the final gasp before surrender. Time is meaningless in the realm of chaos. Across the cosmos, those who chronicle the decline of their own kind whisper of corruption, of ruination, as if they can name and contain the workings of Nurgle. In their arrogance, they speak of him as a force to be fought rather than the certainty that he is. The ignorant fail to see the greater truth. The wise, those who grasp the endless cycle, know that life is a battle against erosion, and that every dawn carries the promise of dusk.
Cool.
Sick.
One thing we're picking up on is we've said it kind of a couple times where it's like grandfather Nurgle or a father's love. Um, we've talked about chaos gods and how they have sometimes these like good aspects, like Chinch has hope as a good aspect. And I like this, like, Nurgle is over his cauldron in his garden. He's making all these super gross diseases and plagues, but each one he's like super hyped to see what happens with it. He's like, yeah, blossom and grow, and this one's gonna burn out really quick. He's like, that was cool, let's make another one. Like he isn't necessarily looking for like the greatest world killing disease. He's just looking for life and creation and something new, and then he cares for it in the way only he can.
I mean, of all the chaos gods, like his gifts are literally, I mean, they all their blessings can be called boons or whatnot, but it seems like it's very consistent amongst Nurgle followers. They all treat like everything he does is like a gift or a blessing, as opposed to like a curse like Khorne or Slaanesh or Tzeentch or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I have always, whenever anybody has said grandfather Nurgle or father Nurgle or anything like that, I always think of it as um, there's this idea that a father it's his son, like mothers and everything like that obviously give life, but the father raises it to and wants to nurture it to see it embody himself. And like it
Yeah.
was one of those things, so he wants to see how disgusting and life-giving he can make other things through his own designs, and how much he can get it to reflect his own godlike eminence. So that's what he's trying to do, imbue everybody with his own godlike and
Yo,
abilities by giving
as
them
a
gifts.
as a new parent, that hit hard. Like that, like, yeah, man, just like wanted to watch it and like just develop it. Like, hey, very cool.
Right? It's very interesting kind of how that aspect of what he comes to like represent is he is like doing things in a fatherly way, but disgustingly at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for getting rid of that comment, Mark. That was lingering just a little too long for my liking.
I'm telling you, I'm not the one managing these comments. That can't be me. I can't be held responsible for bringing those up.
Trevor Buzak?
Trevor Buzak must be him.
Yeah, it must be him.
The Lord of Decay continued. To observe the vastness of the galaxy, to witness the slow, inevitable collapse of empires and the deaths of stars, is to know Nurgle's truth. Sons are born and sons die. Kingdoms rise and kingdoms fall. The flesh of the young is fresh and unblemished, but time and toil will weather it until at last it slulls away to nourish what comes after. He is the shepherd of this destiny, the master of certitude. Certitude, for nothing endures forever, save for rot itself. It is only mortals' distaste for decay, their revulsion at the gurgling stench of putrefaction, that blinds them to this blessing. It is difficult for the fragile mind to understand that the wasting of a limb, the rupture of flesh, the spilling of entrails are not punishments, but gifts. Man, Nurgle has the best propaganda team. I'm telling you, the best. Even the hollow husk of the false emperor, confined to his golden throne, is a monument to Nurgle's work. A corpse wrapped in the brittle preservation, fighting the inevitable. Each day, 1,000 souls are thrown upon the pyre of sacrifice to starve off the rot, yet they do not halt it. They merely feed it. Fuel is slow and patient march. It is in the end all things succumb. The Lord of Decay will be there, smiling to welcome them home. For every death, there is renewal. Every carcass begets new life. This is the great exchange in which Nurgle traffics the cycle he nurtures with loving hands. Flesh is the coin of his realm, and hope is the interest he pays on the investments made. Truly, there is no god so honest in his purpose, no force so certain in his design. Thus, he alone deserves the name whispered, revered, reverence, and feared alike. The Lord of all. Oh man.
Woo.
Sick.
That should be the
So
grandfather.
sick.
Literally sick.
Yeah. I love just the talk of like kingdoms rise and fall, and just time, and when we're dealing with 40k and 60 million years of a setting, like, man, how much has Nurgle just thrived and grown, and each year he just becomes more powerful as like the entropy of the universe increases. He just grows and grows.
To take this to
exactly.
Greek mythology, that's why Hades is such a very underrated Olympian god. Well, he's not really Olympian, a very underrated god, because he is the god of the dead. Like, eventually, everybody's gonna die and join in his kingdom in the underworld. So, like, there's that mythological entropy, like what Mark brings up, that like everybody's going to join me at some point in time. It may not be now, it may not be 60 million years from now, but eventually it's going to happen.
Exactly. Like when you look at all the other chaos gods, they all have something where it's like that fuels them, right? Tzeentch, every time a plan changes, Tzeentch is all over it. And every time everybody goes a little too far in the bedroom, Slanesh all over it. Every time somebody, cuts their finger, Khorne all over that. And then it's like every time that you, like, even alive, your cells are decaying and reproducing themselves. Nurgle's just like basking in the glory that is. He's like, everybody's doing it for me.
For me.
Yeah,
like what is that? Every 7 years, your skin replaces itself completely. Like, and then just think of all those dead skin particles flaking off all over the place.
Yeah. We are all worshippers of Nurgle, even though we are not worshippers of Nurgle.
Yeah. Fuck.
True words have never been spoken.
Liar likes that little bit about, holy shit, Big E is a fucking Nurgle statue.
Yeah, man.
Like, you're not escaping Nurgle for sure. You just aren't doing it.
Nope. 100%.
So, all this talk about him being the Lord of all, he has a shit ton of titles. So we're going to talk about that now. Prepare the scroll here because he's about to rival Cetra in the number of his in the number of titles here. That's a Warhammer Fantasy reference. Hashtag go listen to Grimlore. Okay, that's enough shilling for now.
I have as many titles though. If you listen to the Grimlore, you'll get that. I am the Lord of Titles over there.
Start from our first episode, and you'll notice like each episode, Mark's list of titles just grows one by one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm proud of it. But lay me on Nurgle's titles here.
Okay. Yes, Cetra does not serve. Good man. Good man. Okay. These titles all belong to Nurgle, the chaos god of disease, decay, and despair at Warhammer 40k. Known as the Plague Lord or Plague Lord. It's separated by a space for those that are can't see the typing. He spreads contagion across the galaxy with grotesque joy, reveling in the endless cycle of rot and renewal. As the plague god, he is both the giver of poxes and the twisted patron of resilience, ensuring that even the most afflicted endure in his embrace. So you're not just sick. You're going to stay sick if Papa Nurgle has any say in this. Just ask the Death Lord.
Hopefully you even like it. Eventually,
like you'll like it.
I could be a little more sick, I think. Come on, just a little more sick.
I always make this joke in that I just like imagine like all these great unclean ones and these pox walkers just like slinging like like pox buckets or whatever, and they're just going like, Nurgle loves you! Nurgle loves you!
Yeah, gross. And then when that bucket's empty, it's actually a bell. So then you get that sloshing like bell sound at the end.
Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead.
I was going to say it. I was like, oh, good man, Gerald.
But I'm not dead yet. Bring out your dead. Can you help me out here? Okay.
Oh, man.
The Lord of Decay and Lord of Pestilence. As the plague god, he is both the giver of poxes and twisted patrons of pestilence, ensuring that even the most afflicted endure his embrace. The Lord of Decay and Lord of Pestilence. He commands legions of Nurglings, plague bearers, and corrupted mortals who worship him as the Fly Lord and the Great Corrupter. Yet to his followers, he is more than a harbinger of suffering. He is Grandfather Nurgle, a benevolent if grotesque deity who nurtures his creations with boundless affection. His devotees whisper his names in reverence, calling him Father Nurgle or even Papa Nurgle, believing that through decay they achieve a twisted form of eternal life. As the master of plague and pestilence, his gifts are both a curse and a blessing, a putrid embrace that ensures nothing truly dies, only festers, spreads, and begins anew.
Many, mucho titles. Plague Lord, Plague God, Plague Father, Lord of Decay, Lord of Pestilence, Fly Lord, Great Corruptor, Grandfather Nurgle, Father Nurgle, Papa Nurgle, Master Plague, and Pestilence. I think there's some more even too. My internet is
Mr.
just
Plague
low.
sounds like a great rapper's name.
Oh yeah, okay. Rapper, you
Shout out
thinking
to
not
your
like
boy
some.
Master Plague.
Oh man, yeah, so many titles this guy has.
Crazy. I don't like he's kind of almost like, yes, he has titles, but he's looked at not so much as a god or a master, but a true leader people can follow and look up to because of that fatherly, like, and grandfatherly life giver that he is and corrupter that he can be. Right? That's what I find, at least.
Yeah, and like there's like that concept where some people, when they accept their death, then it feels like they're then free to live. So that, even with that concept, you could kind of tie that really into Nurgle and how you become a follower and like what Nurgle's kind of about. Like, this is what I give you. I kind of give you freedom. Like, yes, you will die. All of us are gonna die, but we can make you live a long time. Sure, you'll have a third arm, but you also have this cool Nurgle companion. So it's like, who's to complain?
And guess what? All those nasty plagues and poxes, you're not going to feel it. You're going to have it so you can spread it elsewhere, but you're not going to feel a thing unless Nurgle wants you to.
You're going to be a hit with the ladies. Oh, no, sorry, I misread that. I mean, the ladies are going to hit you. But, there's pros and cons. It is what it is.
The ladies be hitting you for sure.
Yeah, with the broom. Get away, you beast. But it's okay. It's okay. That's fine.
Exactly.
Exactly.
This would make me think of that Hammer and Bolter episode called Plague Song. I think it's Death Guard centered, but man, great animation. Do not eat anything before you watch it.
Oh no.
Do not eat anything before you watch it.
So I had a friend of mine who had a bunch of Death Guard models and everything. And as a joke, his brother went in with fart spray into his gaming case and put fart spray into the foam of the gaming case. And so he opened up this gaming case at a tournament, and then was just like, like, he had no idea what to do. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. His brother's like 10 years old, so like he thought it was the funniest thing in the world, and he's just like, dude, I left that in a hot car in mid-July before going into a tournament. He's like, awful.
Fuck. Isn't that just the biggest Chinchian versus Nurgle battle there? What a plot and what a scheme to fucking set somebody up. Holy, I love it.
Yeah, he was like, because he had been telling his brother about how gross Nurgle is and why they're all green and everything like that. And he's
I'll
like,
make it green.
Their farts would be really bad, right? He's like, oh yeah, they'd be terrible. He's like, in his mind, he's like, I'm thinking.
This reminds me about that one Reddit story. I don't know how true that is, but oh no.
Yeah, it was bad.
Beautiful.
Oh,
beautiful.
No.
Oh boy,
proud.
But yeah, he's proud. He's a proud boy. But with titles, you need domains. You gotta.
So you can get your websites.
So yeah. So you get your websites. You gotta survey your domains. So Nurgle has some good ones for sure. Here's another quote, though. I won't get wet in your ears this time, though, Mark. Entropy is all-consuming, fed by all struggles against it. Thus, even to hope is to despair. So despair, and in your desperation, find purpose. Slans the racked speaker of rot.
Now
I
that's a
love
rapper
this.
name.
Yeah. Slams the rack. Speaker rot.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. These 6 words encapsulate the grim cycle of existence under Nurgle's domain. Disease festers and spreads, a relentless force that reshapes both flesh and world in its image. Decay follows the slow unmaking of all things, reducing grand empires and mighty warriors to rotting husks. From this comes despair, the crushing inevitability that all shall wither, that no fortress or spirit is immune to the creeping touch of entropy. Yet destruction is not the end, it is merely another stage in the cycle, clearing the way for what must come next. Death arrives not as an absolute, but as a transition. For in Nurgle's realm, there is no true finality. With grotesque inevitability comes rebirth, the sickly renewal of life twisted by corruption, ensuring that even in ruin, something new and festering shall always rise. Disease, decay, despair, destruction, death, rebirth.
One of these
Cool.
not like the other.
Yeah, a bunch of D's.
Yeah. This is the 6 D's of death guard. Disease, decay, despair.
And rebirth. That one doesn't
and
start with D. Doesn't look like a cutout for here, kid.
Yeah, throws a plague.
Yeah.
Throws a plague at him. I don't know what a plague shape is, but like probably a wrench.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh,
Yeah, his
man.
domains are pretty cool. Like it's so easy, it's so clear what it is, you know.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll now talk about his manifestations, how he kind of manifests himself. And I got a good little quote for you here from the Journal of Albriania. Sure, why not? I gazed at his magnificence, my vision completely filled with his glorious girth. Let me reread that because it's a fun word. My vision completely filled with his glorious girth. All around me was flesh and smiling flies. Within his bulk I spied lesser minions, suckling on his leaking entrails. At his feet pools of pus and other bodily fluids gathered, in which his children splashed and played with glee. It was a blessing to behold such glory and joy. It was with great sadness that I awoke into a world filled with imperial dogma and abominations. I knew then the path I must walk. Yeah. The playground of Nurgle.
Easy. I love that. I love that for him.
To comprehend the magnificence that is the Plaguefather's form is to accept that understanding is fleeting thing, slipping like spoiled flesh from brittle bone. Whether one pores over forbidden tomes in the shadowed halls of the Black Library, or listens to the guttural tales spun around the sooty bonfires of the Killer Cruise's worn-torn hull, they are all equal before Nurgle's unknowable majesty. Like all the Chaos Gods, his form is not one that can be charted or captured, for he is boundless, his presence as ever-changing as the slow creep of decay. Though often spoken of as male, Nurgle, like the great powers of the warp, is without gender, a being of pure, unfettered corruption given shape by the folly of mortal minds. Yet across the scattered remnants of history and myth, certain commonalities persist like mold clinging to a damp stone. While other entities of the immaterial wear 1,000 guises, Nurgle's visage, ever repugnant, rarely deviates. Wherever the whispers of the lost and the damned spread his tale, the descriptions remain unwavering in their grotesqueness. He is a hulking, corpulent mass, bloated with disease. His body a great necrotic husk. His hide is thick and leathery, a canvas of seeping sores and swelling bubios. What is that fucking word? Ruptured flesh gapes open. Bubios. Rupturing flesh gapes open, spilling ropes of rotting intestines that coil about his girth like overripe, gangrenous fruit. Lesser demons, his beloved Nurglings, scutter and caper across his wounds, their tiny mouths suckling upon his pus that dribbles freely from his ruptured boils. The stench of decomposition clings to him like thick, humid waves, a constant miasma of filth heralded by the ceaseless drone of bloated corpse flies. Beneath his ragged nails, where flesh blackens and peels, maggots seethe in their putrid nests, cysts forming only the split and spill their vile contents in an endless cycle of rot and rebirth. Perhaps these tales are true, perhaps they're not. It is no consequence for deep within the festering heart of his garden. What rise within the Plaguefather's domain is beyond mortal reckoning. Yet none can deny that his works, though abhorrent, are also miraculous in their tenacity, and their joy with which he toils is the boundless as entropy itself. Even if madness clouds the testimonies of those who have glimpsed his presence, I'm telling you, the propaganda team is on point for Nurgle. The consistency of their accounts is undeniable. His form of decay, but his spirit is effervescent, his laughter as infectious as his gifts. Herein lies the paradox of Nurgle, the harbinger of disease, yet a father to all, the master of ruin, yet brimming with ceaseless vitality. Indeed, it is his tireless fervor, his unyielding exuberance in the craft of dissolution that breaks the minds of those who dare ponder him too deeply. How can a being of filth and pestilence, a bringer of agonizing demise, radiate such warmth? How can the Lord of Decay shower such affection upon those racked by his plagues? To dwell upon those contradictions is to court madness, to walk a winding path toward inevitable understanding. For those who do not falter, who let the rot take root in their minds, without succumbing to despair, a revelation awaits. The world as it is decaying husk, its foundations crumbling beneath the weight of its own fragility. Only those who accept this truth, who see Nurgle's hand in the writhing of all things, can grasp the grandeur of what is to come. Reality itself is brought to soil, growing rich with decay, ever preparing for the grand and grotesque renewal. I really like the one line of whoever lets rot take root in their minds without succumbing, revelation awaits. Like, the mind is the first thing that Nurgle is going to corrupt. Like, then maybe your body will kind of follow with all the diseases and stuff. But it's that first kind of bad thought of nihilism that creeps into your mind that you entertain for too long.
I mean, that's just how chaos kind of works in general. It's that very insidious whisper that you hear in the back of your mind. And then once that takes hold, it's game over.
Yeah.
It happened to Fulgrim. It happened to Morty.
It can happen to Fulgrim. It can happen to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's 100% true, though. Like, one of my favorite lines from that was, reality itself is but soil growing rich with decay, ever preparing for its grand and grotesque renewal. Like, that is not, it's a metaphor for your mind as well. Your mind is but soil growing rich with decay or ideas or whatever, right? Preparing for a grand and grotesque renewal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Love it.
Mm-mm-mm.
First the mind, then the body I shall corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Well, Nurgle does have a sacred mark or a symbol that you can easily identify between, differentiate him from the other Chaos gods. The tripartite fly is Nurgle's sacred mark, a symbol of his relentless plague and the insidious nature of decay. Consisting of 3 interconnected flies, This emblem represents both the all-encompassing spread of disease and the unholy trinity of Nurgle's core tenets: decay, resilience, rebirth. The fly, an insect synonymous with filth and corruption, serves as a reminder of the pestilence that Nurgle embodies, constantly buzzing and multiplying as his followers are consumed by his bloated gifts. The three flies also reflect the cyclical nature of life and death under Nurgle's watch, where the end of one cycle seamlessly leads into the beginning of another, forever entwined in a never-ending dance of suffering and renewal. To those who bear the tripartite fly, it is both a mark of blessed corruption and an assurance of Nurgle's loving embrace, for in decay they find strength.
The tripartite fly, it's a cool little symbol. It's interesting that it's like tri. I wonder, like, it should be 7. Well, we're going to talk about the sacred number of Nurgle being 7. I wonder if their symbol, it's just look over it. It's not that big of a deal, but I don't know. Maybe a 7-headed fly would be cooler or something like that than a tri. I'm just saying, but line up with the powers that be. Work with the system you got, and if number 7 appeals to you and you like it, makes you more powerful, go hard.
I think it probably does have something to do with just how big you could make a symbol. That's probably all it is.
You're telling me you can't paint a 7-headed fly on a Space Marine shoulder pad? Come on, Brody, I've seen what you paint.
I know my freehand ain't that good though. Speaking of the sacred number 7, Nurgle has a sacred number. Each chaos god does. The sacred number 7 is for Nurgle himself a symbol of his domain over plague, resilience, and the cycle of life and death. In many traditions, 7 represents completeness. And for Nurgle, this reflects the inevitability of decay leading to new beginnings. His greatest champions and daemonic legions are often organized in groups of 7. From the 7 plagues he unleashed upon the galaxy to be favored formations of the Death Guard, the numbers also mirrors the slow, methodical spread of disease, persistent, unstoppable, and ever-growing. To Nurgle's followers, 7 is not just a number, but a reminder that no matter how much the Imperium struggles, all things must rot, and in that rot, new life festers.
Yeah, that's sweet. So that's what I'm saying. When you know that number exists, that's why Lyre says we need the 7-headed Flydra.
The Flydra. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think it is. GW, you can get on that. You can message Lorehammer Legal, and we can work out the logistics of you buying that off of us. But yep, no, we're selling Flydra
TM,
for sure.
Yeah.
TM.
Yeah. Something that Lyre said earlier too, being a putrid preacher for Nurgle sounds so dope. Dude, I imagine somebody with the tripartite fly symbol on a staff, like waving out horrible fart incense, just telling you how good everything is about Nurgle. It would be amazing. Just the grossest person on a corner shouting preachery things at you, and you're just like, guy's gross.
Doom!
But sounds good.
The world is over. But wait, it's a good thing.
It's not even doom. It's rejoice, rejoice. Papa Nurgle comes to take you home. And you're like, oh man, I'm homeless. I want a home. Let's go.
Brody, don't go with that guy. Don't do it.
Guys, he said it's fine. He said his dad's back there and he's got a gift for me.
Oh man, he's about to. Never mind. Let's go to the Nurgle sacred color. I don't want to think about what happens if you go home with that guy, Brody. Don't do it.
Oh no. Oh no.
Don't take the candy from the Nurgling. Don't do it.
Do it.
That's not a light at the end of the tunnel. Don't.
Last episode I brought up about sacred colors. So ponder this question before I do the read. Do you think that all Nurglings or all demons should be painted in their preferred god's color? And ponder that question while I read this, and we'll talk about it. Nurgle's colors, primarily brown and green, are the visual embodiment of decay, rot, and the eternal cycle of life and death. Green, often associated with sickness and infection, symbolize the virulent spread of disease and the relentless growth of plague. It represents Nurgle influence on the natural world, turning vibrant life into something putrid and corrupt. Brown, the color of decaying earth and rotting flesh, reinforces the theme of decomposition, grounding Nurgle's power in a physical decay of all things. Together, these colors evoke the contradictory nature of Nurgle. Though his gifts bring suffering and death, they also nourish the cycle of rebirth, from where decay comes new life, however foul it may be. This duality makes Nurgle's hues both unsettling and strangely comforting to his followers, who embrace the promise of eternal, albeit decayed life. You know, like, my example is this. When I'm playing tabletop, you better believe that I'm putting down squads of 7 plague bearers, you know, because to me, I just think that is how I become more powerful. Just like orc players yell wog and paint their tanks red. It just is what we do. Like, I feel like when you're painting your Nurgle demons, like, the colors, the numbers, the symbols, those are all super important and would provide a great boon in your mind at the very least.
The Death Guard boxes actually come in like intervals of 7, even though even though you're still paying MSRP for what would amount to 10 Space Marines, you're only getting 7 Plague Marines. So work out the numbers for that. But either way, haha, cute, funny Nurgle 7 moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think we take the number so much more seriously than we take the color.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
and like, so for me, I don't think green necessarily, like, yes, green is the color of like decay. Like when you see something like becoming green that was not green before, yes, that symbolizes decay, but you always see a little bit of that color that was before. Before death, there is beauty. And so, like, you have to have, before grossness, there is, like, all these different things. Like, you have to have something that was before and to what it is now. So I think using the duality of what you were before Nurgle's gifts and what you've become after Nurgle's gifts have to intermingle. So, like, every zombie or every plague bearer being green doesn't really do it for me. They have to look like they were before, but are slowly being engulfed by the green. So not all green, but like using it as like a secondary color is pretty good, I think.
I have a follow-up to that, in that well, I agree, like green and especially lots of yellow and brown is very much like Nurgle's shtick. You can take it a step further by painting your Nurgle army after the environment that you want to base them in. I made this comment last week about Only One Bob making deep sea Nurgle Iron Warriors, and you can tell it is Iron Warriors corrupted by Nurgle, but then drowned in the ocean just because of just how wet and moist his the green stuff and the sinew and everything. It's just in the eyeball. And then I actually saw, when I was looking through inspiration for my 40K Morty project I'm going to do later this year, is I saw someone did a frozen Death Guard. The silhouette of Death Guard and Nurgle is so distinct. You can just look at it and you can tell what it is. So what this person did was just basically paint them in just hues of blue and white, and made it look like it was just the Death Guard just slowly making their way in a frozen zombie apocalypse, like White Walkers from Game of Thrones. It was fantastic. Yeah, exactly. Because that's the other kind of decay you can get, not just the festering pustules that you usually see.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, yeah, it doesn't seem like anyone, the other two guys weren't too keen on this like sacred color being as important. Where like I can get everyone on board to being like, okay, you're playing Nurgle, so you're putting down squads of 7, whether you fucking like it or not, because that's just what we do here. But color, not so much. Good to know. I do like what you said, like Brody. Yeah, like if you are painting a Tau, I want to see a Tau, a blue-skinned camel type creature corrupted by Nurgle. I can't paint him like I would paint an Imperial Guardsman corrupted.
Exactly, right? So
Yeah,
it just using that whatever they were before and being able to show that they've been corrupted is something that you have to look at, right? And it's hard to necessarily pin that down for everything all the time. So like
yeah,
I've been painting some vampire models for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And when I was doing that, I was really kind of going with the whole like purple shadows or magenta shadows in their like face lines and everything like that, and making sure they're a very pale flesh um, and stuff like that. And really got me thinking about um, it's not so far out of the realm of possibility to do something like that with Nurgle models as well, because with that first little bit of decomposition is your blood and everything just kind of decomping within your skin, and you see that decomposition within the skin before you see other things. So like seeing somebody who's maybe painted a model like an Imperial Guardsman or something like that, and they're purplish and like bruised looking, that would and I'd be like, yep, that's a Nurgle zombie. That's sick. That looks awesome. Like that'd be really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Let me refine it real quick. What if, you know what? Like, never mind. I was gonna say, what if just the demons kind of stick to the screens of brown? And once you talk about like corrupting mortals, you kind of go out. But it just doesn't seem like anyone's too keen on like limiting colors. And I get that, man. Like, we want to paint Nurgle how we want to paint them. So, yeah,
I also think like the things that are like associated with Nurgle, like maggots and stuff like that, are really associated with Nurgle. They always talk about like blowfly larva and all that stuff. That stuff's all
yeah,
bright white. So if you wanted to do like a Nurgle army, they got a demon Nurgle army, and they were all like this sickly white, and then all the shadows were like greens or yellows and stuff like that, where it makes it look like they're the young new Nurgle demons that they're trying to like
yeah,
get fatter and more demony and more blessed, and the greener they are. So like your big unclean one, your great unclean one, is like way more green, but still has like patches of like white all over him and everything like that. And then like the plague
yeah.
bearers are all basically all white with just like a wash of green.
Yeah, that would be cool. Just like the darker you get, the more power you have, the more corruption you have.
Yeah, I like that idea. God, I can't be on this show anymore. You guys make me want to collect too much stuff.
Well, if you want to go buy minis, everyone always remember, go to Merlin's Miniatures and use promo code Lorehammer, or use the link in the description below and buy minis from them. They ship worldwide, and then Lorehammer gets a little cut back, and you do me a favor. And they might sponsor more episodes, so go buy from Merlin Miniatures.
Yep.
Let's jump into philosophy. There's kind of 3 main approaches to philosophy that Nurgle has. You know, there's many different styles. Nurgle comes in all shapes and forms, as we're kind of read. But these are kind of the 3 big ones. But here's a fun quote again. His enemies shall wither and die. His allies shall wither and die. The universe and all in it shall wither and die. And when the great corruption has settled over the land and permeated the very foundations of reality itself, then shall the Lord of all rise from the rot and the ruin and spread his arms wide to reclaim all his dutiful children. And that is the victory and rebirth from the litanies of inevitability.
Mark for Plague Preacher 2026.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right. Exactly.
It blows out one's throat, but worth it.
I love that that Nurgle is like the god of evangelical preachers. Every
Yeah,
single you never hear corn like dudes like they just like blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull
Yeah.
throne. Zinch is like, you don't know what I'm gonna say. And Slanesh is just moaning. And then these guys are like, let's just have like a really like come to Nurgle moment, and we're gonna just just go
Sure, it's
hardcore
all
into
over, but let's give each other a hug.
yeah,
Well, it's like
they go straight
it's
evangelical preacher. Like, is it 2 a.m. on a Sunday?
well, it's like Mark said. Nurgle probably has the best propaganda machine because everyone is just so jolly. Like
Right?
all
Exactly.
the other chaos gods is like Korn just wants blood, death, and gory murder. Zinch is just all about trickery. You don't know what I'm gonna think next. And then Slanesh is just the
I
Nurgle
like
is
that.
just like, yes, children, come around the plague pot. We're all gonna have ourselves a nice little pestilence stew.
Nice
Blessed be the grandfather.
stew.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Oh. Decay is
Love it.
glorious. Decay really is glorious, isn't it? To Nurgle, decay is not merely an unfortunate consequence of existence, but a beautiful, inevitable process that brings balance to the universe. His philosophy of decay teaches that all things must degrade, that entropy is the natural state of all matter, and in this destruction there is a kind of purity. Through decay, Nurgle brings about the opportunity for new life to emerge, often in forms more resilient than before. His followers view the withering of life as a sacred process, an essential transition that serves as the foundation of Nurgle's eternal cycle. For them, decay is not a cause for despair, but a glorious, necessary step in the grand design where the dead feed the living and life is continually reborn from death.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. I think that's the most kind of basic, kind of the beginner's level of Nurgle. That's basic. Then, you go to Nurgle College and you learn the next little lesson here of Champions of Decay.
Nurgle Sunday School.
Yeah, as you learn more about the philosophy behind Nurgle, Oh,
Must be
it's
on the
not all
7th
just...
day of the week.
It has to be, yes. But apparently it doesn't have to be a green church or brown church. It can be any type of church.
Yeah. Any church color you want, as long as it looks decrepit. There you go. Now, decay is glorious, as Gerald said, but what glory is there except for the glory of Nurgle's champions?
Ooh.
Another quote for you from Culvane Hesterius of the Death Guard. In the embrace of great Nurgle, I am no longer a friend, for with his pestilential favor, I have become that which I once feared, death. Ta-da!
Nice. And then I can imagine you just slaying me with a scythe.
Choosh. Yeah, exactly. Scythe, or like the new Nurgle Death Guard model that has that great big executioner's sword across his back.
Oh, yeah, that
thing's
guy's
sick.
sweet.
Sick.
Yeah, I would be honored if you killed me with either of those.
You know what? I'll get on it. Oh man. The champions of decay are those who have embraced Nurgle's gifts of plague and decay, transforming into twisted embodiments of his will. These chosen individuals are marked by their resilience and their ability to withstand the horrors of the universe through corruption and decay, becoming living testaments to Nurgle's eternal reign. They are both feared and revered as they have surrendered themselves to the slow yet inevitable ravages of rot. In return, Nurgle bestows upon them the strength to endure what would break lesser beings, and in this endurance they find purpose. The champions of decay, whether mortal or daemonic, become embodiments of the Plaguefather's philosophy. Decay is not weakness, but an opportunity for growth. And in decay, they find their ultimate power.
Cool. Yeah. So this is, the first one is like, what can I do for Nurgle? And then the second level is, what can Nurgle do for me? And then the third level goes back to what can I do for Nurgle? Because the third kind of philosophy is the great game and how you can help him in that regard. To Nurgle, the universe itself is a great game, a grand cosmic contest in which death, decay, and rebirth are the primary forces at play. This game is not one of conquest, but of entropy, the slow, steady spread of rot and pestilence across creation. The great game is not won through brute force, but through the inevitability of decay, where even the mightiest will succumb to time's touch. Nurgle's followers understand this game as a dance between life and death, where suffering, while painful, is simply part of the eternal rhyme. For the Plaguefather, this game is a celebration of his dominance over life, and his followers are both players and pawns in this endless cycle, eternally participating in the play of rot, transformation, and rebirth. Yeah, so like I said, it's going back to Nurgle. At the end of the day, everything goes back to Nurgle.
It really does. That's like the great game is not won through brute force, but through the inevitability of decay, where even the mightiest will eventually succumb to time's touch. He is like, here's a thought. Is Nurgle actually more a god of time than the other ones? Because he controls how fast or how slow the decay and rebirth process is usually.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thought. In the warp, time is like irrelevant. So I guess it depends on how you kind of view the warp. If it's like a space outside of time, which we kind of think it is, and then can he then be the god of time if he himself doesn't really even have a concept of it because he's kind of always all time? Or does that just make him even more powerful over it? I don't know.
Or does that just make him the actual god of time?
No,
it's interesting. It's just I kind of thought of it because it was like he is literally like, when you look at what he's doing, a lot of what he does is not based off of how fast he of like how much he wants you to suffer. It's about how fast or how slow he wants you to suffer, or in how fast or how slow he wants you to spread his plague around. That's kind of like it just got me thinking. I'm like, he really doesn't care about anything else other than that decay and rebirth and destruction is all like the cycle of life, but he gets to pick how long or how short that cycle is.
Yeah, okay. I'll definitely if there's a Discord poll, I'd vote yes for giving him another title of Lord of Time. I think you won me over.
Yep.
Cool. There you go.
I mean, I could see that because you don't see any of the other Chaos gods having that level of control over things in the warp. Now, with the whole time being kind of irrelevant, but on that same token, though, time is essential to the whole process of decay, of rot, of rebirth, just like what you were mentioning. So there is that factor of like there is a certain progression that's going on here.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Like mortal followers, like the way they get longer life is you get more diseases, I guess, and then you live longer. That's how you defeat time, or like you just creep on, so you just defeat time like that. It's a fun title.
And like everybody might think like, oh, Tzeentch is time because he's the changer of ways and he can change things and go back and forth. That's manipulation of time. I think Nurgle has
that's semantics.
Power.
I'll have you know.
That's semantics.
Potato.
Yeah, but I honestly think that because of his ability, like Gerald had said, to decay and rot and everything takes time. Because of that, I think he controls it more personally. Than
like
Tzeentch or something.
Yeah, like Tzeentch, he foresees the future and he sees the strands of fate, And it's a little different. Like maybe he has like forward sight, but he doesn't have that same kind of like control as we were saying. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was interesting, just the way that you had worded that, and I was like, hey, this gives me a different idea of how this would work.
Nice.
Very interesting.
And the final quote for this kind of philosophy section that'll get you to think, and then we'll jump into Garden of Nurgle. And this is just some lost and damned individual that said this. Indeed, the very process of construction and creation foreshadows destruction and decay. The palace of today is tomorrow's ruin, and the maiden of the morning is the crone of night. The hope of the moment is but a foundation stone of the everlasting regret. I think that was me as an electrician who kind of said that one.
That was you in your lost in the damned phase. Everybody
exactly.
has it.
We've all been there. I'm better now. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Oh man. I've been very.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say I will say this though: the hope of a moment is but the foundation stone of everlasting regret. So metal. I love that. That is the quote of the day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can top that, but I've been very bereft of quotes this entire night, so I found one for myself to read out.
Okay.
This one is by Ergloth Rothar, Plague Champion of the Death Guard. So just imagine this being in the Champions of Decay section that Brody had read. Sickness, disease, plague, and pox, suffering, and the slow living rot. Such wondrous gifts does Nurgle seek to bestow upon the unworthy human cattle of the Imperium. We are merely the vectors by which his virulent beneficence may spread to the undeserving masses. Honored be the grandfather.
Honored be he.
Honored be the grandfather.
Honored be the grandfather. And now we get to talk about the Garden of Nurgle. The land of the Plague Lord, Nurgle's garden, is no mere garden. It is a realm of rot and rebirth. Mortal minds struggle to comprehend it, often describing it as a twisted, deadly paradise where decay fuels life. The garden teems with grotesque flora and fauna, interconnected in a perpetual cycle of life, death, and decay. Shovel petal plants uproot themselves, planting skull seeds in rich loam, while beasts of Nurgle, frolicking over these new fruits, scatter their matter, feeding the flies. These creatures carry Nurgle's experimental diseases, which upon infecting predators lead to their violent demise and provide new nourishment for the garden's ever-growing decay. I'd like to see what happens if like a Catachan soldier gets plucked from Catachan and just put into Nurgle's garden and see how they take to it. I wonder how much it just reminds them of home.
Yeah, like in the dead of night, he just wakes up. He's like, oh, I must be off Catachan. This place is pretty nice.
It's actually an improvement. Wow.
Though this domain echoes earthly gardens, it is not a place of simple passage. Demons, including the plague bearers, are not workers but part of the garden's essence. Eternally bound to Nurgle's will, his domain is fluid, shifting to suit his whims and creations, with fields for blighted herbs, pits for his experiments, and a vast mansion to store his works, brew plagues, and entertain visitors. So not only do you have a garden, you got a nice little pad. Good on you, Nurgle. Good on you.
He loves entertaining dinner guests, throwing the fanciest dinner parties. All the chaos gods come around. They chat about the great game. Who's winning?
Exactly.
I don't know, man. I was always a Zinch guy for a long time, but this is starting to win me over. Nurgle's just too chill and too jolly to
Right? Exactly.
So you may have chosen Nurgle, but if at the end of the episode you're coughing or your nose is running, then we will know that Nurgle 2 has chosen you.
I will consider it.
No.
I will consider these gifts of Nurgle. Nurgle's garden thrives on disease. Twisted trees, fungi, and insect-like creatures crawl through a primordial mire, while Nurgle's mansion stands, rotting yet indestructible. Within, the Lord of Decay stirs his cauldron, crafting fresh diseases, his laughter filling the air as his creations spread across the stars. Surrounded by plague bearers, he ensures his plagues are counted, spreading further with each passing moment. I don't know where that came from. I'm sorry.
You're getting
A
slowly
Nurgle-
possessed by Nurgle, I think, is what's
Nurgle must have
happening.
taken an interest.
Honestly,
Come here,
it
little
worked.
man.
So
Let's bring you into the Nurgle fold. Let's take you away from Zeech. Anyways, war erupts as Nurgle's influence spreads, his garden blooming with death and corruption. Yet even as it recedes, the garden feeds on the fallen, its cycle of decay and rebirth continuing, waiting for its next swell across time and space.
Man, one of the wildest things about moving from Canada to Panama was going from the prairies where it's just like wheat fields to then going to a fucking rainforest jungle where you cut down trees and they grow back. Like I have a path out in the back where I've been macheting, and like if I don't go back there in a week or two, the trail gets overgrown, man. It's just there's so much life, and there's trees growing on trees, and there's animals, and there's carcasses, and there's smells, and very Garden of Nurgle. I think next time I walk through there, I'm going to see what kind of gross things I can find in honor of Nurgle.
you know, it's funny. I was just listening to like a World War II podcast, and it was focusing on like the Asia Pacific theater, and one of the things that they were talking about was the war, like the World War II battles on New Guinea, and how it was absolutely terrible because you'd be walking through the jungle, and because of how damp and how hot and how like there's no sunlight that gets through or anything, everything just starts to rot. So like as you're walking through your like it was a big thing where their uniforms would rot on them. And so they were like
Crazy.
walking through the jungle for like a week, and they'd come out and they wouldn't have uniforms. They would be like almost buck naked because their uniforms were just like destroyed just from how the jungle was trying to decompose them as
Yeah.
they're living to feed itself to grow back everything. And that's like very much Garden of Nurgle. Like,
Yeah, I love that thought where it's like you said, to feed itself, especially like where the jungle is almost its own entity that is trying to consume everything that comes in contact with it.
yeah, it's pretty crazy, man, what just natural life can be and do and whatnot. Like it's growing up on
Nature.
Vancouver Island. Yeah,
Yeah.
nature. Even growing up on like I grew up on Vancouver Island in the West Coast, and it's basically a boreal rainforest. And so I would find things like logs. If you cut down a tree and you don't harvest it for wood right away, things rotting like within like a month kind of thing, especially with how much it rained there. So
Yeah.
a lot of like whenever you were walking through the woods, you never stepped on a log because you never knew if it was rotten or if it was whole or what, because and if you went through it, oh man, I got worms and I got mushrooms I'm getting off my foot, and like it was terrible. But yeah, it's pretty, nature's neat.
I love that smell of the rot and the decay and just like that old growth smell.
Yeah, it's definitely different. It was like even like you talk to any gardener,
Yeah.
they like to smell compost. That's just
Yeah.
rotting stuff that is
I was
becoming something that will grow things, right? And
As
so
long
like,
as you're smelling that
about to
pile and
say
not the manure, keep
yeah,
those piles
exactly.
separate.
So a lot of guys my boss is a gardener. He gardens all the time, and I went back there one time and I just saw him like go over to his compost pile, just grab it, just I was like, "You okay?" And he's like, "Dude, nothing better than the smell of compost." I was like, "You're a
Man.
next level individual."
So this is like
someone's taking in the blessings of Nurgle.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got to smoke a lot of weed before you get this, but it's like, okay, so when you smell decay, are you smelling time? Are you guys high enough for that? Nah, you're not the type. Okay, fine.
I'm so high right now. High on Nurgle life.
Yeah, no, very cool. So that's kind of the first portion of the Garden of Nurgle, the garden itself, and then we go deeper in. Every garden has
And
to have a home.
every garden has to have a greenhouse. That's kind of where I'm going with it here. Mansion of the Plague Lord. At the heart of Nurgle's garden stands a decaying house, its twisted frame groaning against the weight of toxic winds. Shutters hang loose, their frames cracked with filth-caked glass. Sewage drains overflow with maggots, beetles, and bizarre creatures. Tongues for bodies, human fingers for legs. The house's gray-green hue persists as paint perpetually cracks and peels. Hundreds of chimneys expel swarms of buzzing flies. Around it, bone trees bear fruit that rot as it grows. Their bare limbs shelter demonic birds whose songs herald doom for intruders. This is Nurgle's mansion, a place of death and rebirth where decay is entwined with resilience. The house stands firm, held by Nurgle's infinite joy in decay and renewal. Nurgle himself sits beside the mansion's door, inviting all to share tales and drink from his questionable libations. Inside the house is a labyrinth of decay. Rotten floors claim the unwary, while demons in grand chambers await fresh victims. Higher up, the attic stores Nurgle's works, jars of plague victims, entrails where trapped souls fade as they waste away. Deeper still, the kitchens and larders hold the foulest ingredients, each waiting to be tossed into Nurgle's great cauldron where plagues are brewed. A wise guest avoids lingering here, for the cauldron is a prized possession, and the Plague Lord finds inspiration in all, sometimes adding the very visitors who wander too close.
Man, that like takes me back to like being a kid and like coming across an old abandoned house and you're like, let's go inside and explore this. And you're stepping on all those creaky boards and having to jump over the stairs on the porch because they're broke. But then you get inside it takes a crazy twist and you open up the pantry and it's like severed fingers and eyeballs. You're like, oh fuck. And then you try to run out and you fall into the basement where there's all new manner of horrors there. So you run up the staircase and this whole house is like just decrepit, and everywhere you look there's this new horror of filth and decay. Not like as a childhood, it went south real
Okay, I was
quick.
about to say that would scar most people, Mark.
I
Just so
never
you know.
told the
Yeah.
cops.
I
Should I
never told-
report this?
I wonder what the statute of limitations
too
is.
far gone.
But no, just like
I
that
love-
old like house that you want to go and explore almost. Like there's like this weird, almost inviting allure to it,
100%, yeah. Like again, like Vancouver Island growing up, like there was some old houses way back in the woods on properties that were abandoned that are just rotting because of how wet and humid it is out there, and with the forest kind of creeping in and the moss hanging down, and you're just like, that's cool as hell, but I ain't going anywhere near that.
Well, I mean, I love how your whole description of Nurgle's mansion is just like over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. It's
Yeah.
just like grandmother's house in a grim fairy tale, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, grandmother's house in a grim fairy tale. I like that. That's a very, very on point.
So we go deeper into the garden. What do we find when we go past the next bush? Why? We find the vibrant grounds of the morbid estate. Nurgle's realm within the realm of chaos is not static, throne-bound domain like corns or chinches. Instead, the Plague Lord wanders through his garden, savoring the decay, relishing in the twisted beauty. Unlike his counterparts, Nurgle is intimately connected to his land, taking joy in watching and spreading the rot, and indulging in the dark amusement of watching his diseases consume their victims. At the heart of the garden lies the deathbeds, where Nurgle stores his broken and defeated, their stories fueling his creativity. Here the Plague Lord listens to tales from the realms beyond, crafting new plagues inspired by them. Those who entertain him are selected, infected, and sent back to their lands as vessels for his creations. Nearby, the pox yards serve as Nurgle's testing ground, a place where the efficacy of his plagues are honed. Depending on the type of disease, the environment changes. Clear land turns it to pus, and thorny brambles tear at infective captives, offering new insights for Nurgles and experiments. Throughout his garden, there are many such places. The Morabusium, where the toxic herbs thrive, and the Dunglash Arboretum. What is that word? Arboretum? Arboretum. I knew that was a real thing. Yeah, Arboretum, where putrid vines grow, all contribute to the Plague Lord's endless work, providing the ingredients and knowledge he needs to perfect his most potent contagions in his cauldron of rotting mansion. Man, what's crazy and interesting about this is like how much like physical, how much science, how much like reality goes into Nurgle crafting these diseases. Like he takes herbs and then he blends them together to create the perfect poison. Like it's not just like he's concocting warp diseases, although he does do that as well, but he also has this like physical attribute where, you know, maybe the concept is just like his demons, if he creates just like warp plagues, yeah, he can put them out into the world, but maybe they're on a timer. And after a certain amount of time, they no longer hold power. Well, if you take like real life reality plagues and, you know, afflictions, then they can actually last in the materium world.
He's probably doing some combination of like all of the above. Like,
for sure.
And heaven forbid, like any unsanctioned psychers that just don't have control over their own powers. And then Nurgle happens to take notice. And then he's just like, here we go. Disease.
yeah.
Speaking of diseases, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. I'm so rude.
No. It's all good.
Go ahead.
I was okay. I was thinking as well, like his ability to make disease and everything like that. Like, look at what we have in our own world today. The bio weaponry that the people can make. Man, he has access to millions of worlds and all their weird stuff they have, not let alone just what Terra has. So like he, you know, it'd be crazy. Like, you know, instead of COVID-19, it's COVID 40,062.
Yeah. Damn it, Nurgle fund the Wuhan Institute. Fuck.
Oh no.
Nurgle funded institution.
Man, it's not good. It's not looking good, people. Exactly. So, but yeah, I think that's definitely like an aspect that people don't realize. On every other world out there, there's going to be more things that can make more viruses, that can make more plagues, that can make more pestilence. And if you start taking things from each world and then combining them all together, that's going to make your ultimate virus or your ultimate plague or whatever, right? So yeah, very interesting as well. So
Seth had mentioned the comments a long while back. Let me scroll up and see if I can find it. Give me just one. Okay, here we go. It is. Where is it? I lost it. Okay, question. Does Nurgle control viruses because viruses are dead? Does he control the biological agents that corrupt the dead, the living, or both? So I guess to kind of go off of that, like, yeah, like biologically viruses aren't technically alive, but they exist to infect their host and then procreate from there, just so they can spread out further. So maybe he doesn't control them in their exact movement, but he is basically like the ground zero of whatever kind of outbreak he decides he wants to let loose upon the galaxy of the polio, COVID, pox, or whatever, gonosyphil comitaherpelades A, B, and C, and whatnot.
Gonosyphil herpelades, yeah.
and so, like, once he just finds like that unsanctioned psyker and just lets it take hold in the galaxy, and then it can just further mutate from there, because even if it's not the same disease, it's still going to spread Nurgle's gifts. It's still going to lead to rot and decay, and that's what Nurgle wants, and Nurgle is happy.
Most pleased. Most pleased.
Yeah,
fair
enough.
Yeah, and like, you know, you kind of mentioned about viruses and how like they spread rapidly at first, and then they kind of reach like a point where they don't want to just kill everything. They kind of like stabilize a little bit. And that's that point where now that really makes Nurgle happy, where now he has this stable where the disease can continue on. Like, yeah, it's fun to have a disease that just burns through a population. That's a good time. But it's even better if you have like that population slowly suffering, and man, maybe it's a long-term illness that just takes a whole life to slowly decay you, and that's even better.
Yeah,
right.
Or like from a historical perspective, let me look at the Black Plague. It's like we always think of like the 1348, 1350 time frame. That was when it really like took force, and like I think it was like 60% of Europe's population was taken at that time. But then like it only lasted a few years, and then it kind of died out or quieted down for a little bit. And then it actually made another reappearance like a few decades later. And then like over the course of history, it'll actually come up, or it comes up in different pockets of just there was like an outbreak in like the 1700s in China. There was like another possible outbreak in like California in like the early 1900s or something like that. It was very, very, very small and localized. But the fact that it just kind of, it shows up and then it goes away. It shows up and then it goes away. Kind of like that. So very interesting.
It's got its like reproduction. It knows how to reproduce and how to do it best, and when to spring up next, and how it knows, I don't fucking know, but it knows. Nurgle, obviously. I mean,
I'm no virologist, so don't ask me. I'm just the guy trying to fight it.
Also, Liar had said, can you imagine Nurgle blessed artifacts? The plague and the disease they most absolutely fuck worlds with. And I was like, hell's yes, because I just imagine it being gardening tools. Somebody finds a gardening tool, they're like,
yeah,
oh, a new hoe for me to, do my garden with. And what they're doing is actually infecting the soil and the earth of the world as they're doing it.
Just imagine.
Like the garden shears for like clipping herbs. Like you clip the herb, but like it all dies. The plant, everything, whatever you clip, it just kills it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
you just gave. Here's a Black Library idea: like a Nurgle infected STC to be used on an agri world, and you don't realize what's going on until after all that food stuff is shipped out to everywhere else in the Imperium.
Oh. Big problem.
Black Library, I take my royalties by check, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
They're all just infected John Deere tractors.
Oh no.
Now somebody has to make a Nurgle army where like all the vehicles are just John Deere tractors.
It's like
who keeps planting that warp corn?
Planting that warp corn. Yes.
One more quick little tangent, and then we'll actually get on with the rest of the episode. The Cauldron of Nurgle was something that I think Brody had mentioned earlier in the notes. That actually was like a minor plot point in Warhammer Fantasy, because it actually shows up in the physical realm, and it is currently under the possession of the Skaven, specifically Clan Pestilence. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but you can probably guess like what that's all about. But then you might ask, why does Nurgle not do anything to get it back? They're doing what Nurgle would want to do with it anyways, so he's fine with it.
He's fine.
Spread my disease, you filthy with the rat, folks. There we go.
That is a cool thought. Like, can Nurgle do that same thing? Like, is the pot an actual artifact in 40K? Like, Sure. I suppose it could actually be.
I
Cool.
don't see why it
And,
wouldn't.
yeah, and we kind of got like this, like, it's not really proof, but it's kind of that adjacent proof with fantasy. Cool,
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. All right. So all this talk about diseases, gonosyphilis, metaherpalags, polio, COVID, vaccine, 40,000. Let's talk about the realm of 1,000,001 plagues. The number shall be 1,000,001, no more, no less.
Ring the
Nurgle's
pox
garden.
bell.
Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. Nurgle's garden is vast and ever-changing, with fleeting regions that rise and fall with the ebb and flow of his plagues. Some of these places exist only in the dying visions of the infected, glimpsed in their final breaths. The Death Bell lily fields are one such place, where each life claimed by Nurgle's disease causes a pale flower to bloom and toll, marking the success of his work. I'd like to just imagine there's just like that field, and it's just ding 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 ding. There's like miles upon miles wide. If we're just talking about the whole galaxy here, the Hanging Gardens of Thushborg are another such region, a grisly tribute to the Great Unclean One's victory over orcs on Hurax. Here, the intestines of the orcs' colonies fall and hang from trees, rotting but never fully decaying, a testament to Thushborg's eternal gratitude. The garden teems with Nurgle's minions. Plague bearers sort the organs of the dead. Beasts of Nurgles frolic in the fields of twisted crops, and Nurglings play in hills formed by vomit from the great unclean ones. This land is full of life and decay. This land, full of life and decay, is both a playground for his followers and a living laboratory where Nurgle refines his plagues, constantly shaping his realm as a model for the rebirth of the universe.
Hills of vomit. Beautiful. Let's talk about smells again and the hills of vomit.
No, I don't want to. That sounds terrible.
Nope.
Sounds terrible. Oh boy. Vomit from. Ugh. Now you guys got me thinking about vomit. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Okay. What about shit? What about
Perfect.
hills
Let's
of
talk about
shit?
Now you're speaking my language.
Now in business.
I just ate supper right before we started recording. Why are you doing this to me? Am I being punished here?
Hey man, you knew it was Nurgle. This is your problem.
Yeah, just be happy it's not Slanish episode, because we're talking about the same things, but we're doing very different things with it.
Oh no. Oh boy. Speaking of Slaanesh, the caged maiden. When Slaanesh awoke during the fall of the Eldari, he destroyed their gods. Yet one myth persists that Aisha, the maiden goddess of fertility, survived. Rather than absorbing her like the others, Slaanesh imprisoned Aisha, but her fate took a strange turn. Nurgle, the Plague Lord, waged war against Slaanesh, rescuing Aisha from her prison and bringing her to his domain. The pairing of a goddess of rejuvenation with a god of decay was odd, but Nurgle grew fond of her in his own twisted way. In Nurgle's realm, Aisha is kept in a rusted cage beside his cauldron chamber, where he brews his plagues. Each time he creates a new pestilence, Nurgle forces Aisha to drink it, watching as she resists the effects with her healing powers. If the disease pleases him, it is released upon the mortal worlds. If not, Nurgle drinks it himself and starts again. Though imprisoned, Aisha fights back in her own way, whispering cures into the universe, hoping mortals may resist the Plague Lord's touch.
Cool. Yeah, we did a episode on Eldar mythology, maybe 10 episodes back, not too long ago, and we definitely dive a lot more into the myth of Isha and what that kind of means, even just for the Eldar as a whole. Like, okay, so just like that that cauldron all of a sudden is a tangible object or whatever. Isha is apparently like a real, being or entity. What was it? We don't know. But Nurgle has her. And that'd be another cool one of those things that you broke into Nurgle's garden and kind of, if you had one thing to take, you take the caged maiden. Could be neat to find out.
I wonder if after 10 or 15,000 years, Isha decided, you know what? I think I'd rather be eaten by Slaanesh at this point.
Well, yeah, you know what? She still seems to have hope, though. Like, she's still whispering cures to mortals, and she's still drinking the poison, hoping that, like, okay, if I can beat this, then the mortals don't have to. So she's not defeated yet, at least.
No, and like, especially like her being a goddess of rejuvenation, and him a goddess. A god. Nurgle the goddess.
So hot.
Yeah, big titty Nurgles coming at you.
When you're trying to impress the Eldar goddess, just tell her you have the body of a god. You didn't have to say which one.
You did not.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. But yeah, so like the rejuvenation versus the god of decay, it's such a, like, in there it says it's an odd pairing, but it's not, because he is rejuvenation in death.
Yeah, he is.
Like, that's his thing, right? It's rebirth.
Yeah.
It's his 6 Ds of dodgeball and rebirth.
We both went there.
If you can dodge a ball, you can dodge a virus.
Yeah.
So,
60.
but like, you know what I mean? Like, rebirth is always it. And what is rebirth other than rejuvenation in life? So,
yeah,
is it an odd pairing? I don't think it is. I think it's actually like opposites attract. He should have gotten to the god, like the god of like infinite nothingness. Like, that's what he should have had. Like, nah, nothing. I'm the god of nothing. It's like, well, shit, I'm the god of life and decay and everything like that. And you and me are not going to get along. And then somehow it's a love story.
Yeah, Nurgle's dating up on this one for sure.
Exactly. Dating up.
Yeah, for sure.
Tale as old as time.
Liar says, stupid, sexy Nurgle.
Stupid, sexy Nurgle. Stop it. Stop flaunting yourself in your garden.
You're always walking around naked back there. I see what you're doing. You're teasing me.
I see.
The great clean one is not real. The great clean one can't hurt you.
The great clean one. Oh no. That is the most cursed Warhammer image I've ever seen in my life. The great clean one. Ugh.
I gotta Google that.
It's terrible.
You will not be disappointed.
Oh no. It's just like a smooth, great, unclean one. So there's no poxes and boil. It just looks like a demon sumo wrestler, actually.
It's you're not wrong.
Yeah.
That is also, I think that's what like a Nurgling would look like in real life, like life-size scale. Nurgling.
Yikes. So good.
Love it.
Man. Glorious.
All right, up next we got the uninvited guests in the garden. Few have seen the land of the Plague Lord, a place where disease festers in every breath. A foul fog chokes the living. Only Nurgle, with a gesture, opens paths through his garden of gurgling fungus and toxic decay. The unwelcome are never spared. The Eldari of Lugranath learned this the hard way when their psychers, seeking the truth of Isha's imprisonment, ventured into Nurgle's realm. Their minds passed through the garden's foulness, untouched at the first, but the rot flies whispered of their trespass to Nurgle. As they neared his manzee, plague bearers rose, chanting. The seers fought with blasts of blue fire, but more emerged from the muck to block their path. Days of battle turned Nurgle's garden into ruin, but the Psychers' physical bodies began to succumb to the very plague they sought to conquer. As their bodies withered, their souls slipped fully into the immaterium, claimed by Nurgle's garden. The air thickened and the seer's form became twisted into gnarled trees, each finger heavy with Nurgling fruit. Now the seers of Lugnagath remain as the forest of despair in Nurgle's domain. Their wails a grim reminder of the cost of unwelcome intrusions. Even Nurgle's generosity has its limits. So that's kind of cool. Like, if you venture into Nurgle's garden, chances are very good you're going to become a part of it. You're going to become a permanent fixture.
I mean, that's pretty much true for any unwanted guest in any Chaos God's realm. So,
but Chinch, Corn, Slanish, they probably devour your soul, and then that's that. I guess your skull becomes a permanent fixture on Corn's throne, but it's a little different.
Right, and that's kind of one of those things where I'm looking at it, I'm like, Nurgle just wants you're an uninvited guest. I'm inviting you to stay forever.
Well, you're in luck.
Oh, you like my garden? Oh my god, you're gonna be a part of it
forever. And I'm gonna tell you about all the flowers, and you're gonna call me daddy.
Oh no! But I've got a dad. Not anymore.
Not anymore. Now you got two.
I'm your daddy now.
Me and that great unclean one over there.
Look at me. Look at me. I'm your daddy now.
Yeah. It reminds me of the stupid Call of Duty Black Ops 6 thing where it's like the guy's like at the dinner. It's like, Mom, where's Dad? He's like, he's playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I'm your daddy now.
Another one lost.
Oh boy. Bad. It's bad. It's good stuff though.
Great stuff.
Great stuff.
Oh.
You're up here, old boy.
Speaking of pregnant pauses.
Who impregnated that pause? Whose fault was that? Jeez.
It's okay. We will fix it in post. I apologize to the editor in advance. So, Nurgle does have a rivalry in the great game, as we have spoken of before. So let's talk about that real quick. Nurgle, the Plaguefather, stands as a timeless adversary to Tzeentch, the Changer of Ways. Their forces are birthed from the very marrow of opposing mortal desires and despair. Tzeentch thrives upon the flickering embers of hope, the ever-present yearning for change and the belief that fortunes can be reshaped. Nurgle, in stark contrast, is fed by the acceptance of decay, the gnawing awareness that death is inevitable, and yet the stubborn refusal to surrender to its grasp. In the charred remains of hopelessness, Nurgle's faithful rise, determined to endure and defy the fleeting whispers of change that Tzeentch weaves. In the mortal realm, the followers of Nurgle often find themselves locked in a slow, suffocating battle against Tzeentch's schemes, seeking to mire the Changer's ever-evolving plans in the grim reality of decay and stagnation. The forces of Nurgle, ever patient, watch as Tzeentch's fragile webs of change collapse, knowing that the detritus of their destruction will feed the eternal cycle of death, rebirth, and renewal. To Nurgle, every crumbling empire, every fallen scheme is fertile ground, ripe for new growth to sprout from the corpse of the old. Though Nurgle and Tzeentch may be enemies, their conflict is one of eternal balance. Tzeentch seeks to create elaborate, intricate designs, impossible to comprehend, evolving into even more alien forms of perfection. But Nurgle is not concerned with perfection. His power lies in resilience, in the unyielding rot that creeps through every crack in Tzeentch's brilliant machinations. While the architect of fate weaves dreams of unimaginable complexity, Nurgle's minions gnaw at the root of those dreams, bringing them to ruin so that from the fertile decay, something new can grow. The war between them rages across countless realities, a never-ending cycle of creation and corruption, where Tzeentch's schemes rise, Nurgle's servants rot, seeking to topple towers of ambition, letting them crumble into the rich loam of rebirth. And from the dead, new life will always spring, an eternal cycle of growth and decay, an inheritance of life from the tombs of change.
Yeah, cool. Like it's a cool balance these two play. And sometimes I think like Chinch is kind of more of the rival there, and Nurgle's kind of just there, and he's like, yeah, I guess Chinch is my rival, but ultimately I'm gonna win this one. It's like the big brother versus the little brother. He's not too concerned. Where Chinch is giving it his all, he's putting everything to his plots and schemes to try to rival Nurgle and kind of get there.
There was a lot of fan talk that ultimately a lot of people kind of speculated that Zinch would be the one to win the great game because of how he like plans upon plans upon plans. But I don't know, reading all of the notes here just kind of makes me think like all Nurgle has to do is just wait.
Just wait.
That's literally it. That's all he has to do is just wait it out.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like, just like your inheritance, you just gotta wait. Like, that's all it is, man. You just gotta wait. Yeah, it'll happen.
So, we talked about rivalries, and now this is kind of a thought that I was kind of having, was the preferred ally. So this isn't necessarily canon, this concept of preferred, but let's see what we kind of get.
Yeah. Nurgle, in his eternal dance of decay and rebirth, finds a curious kinship with the chaos god Khorne. For though their methods differ greatly, both revel in the raw power of destruction. Where Khorne brings violence and bloodshed, Nurgle's forces are content to let rot and corruption slowly erode all things in their path. Yet both find solace in the inevitable collapse of order. Nurgle also appreciates the chaos wrought by Slaanesh, whose indulgences in excess and pleasure often lead to self-destructive behaviors that accelerate the spread of pestilence and despair. And though an uneasy ally at best, Nurgle tolerates Tzeentch's endless schemes, for they know that the more Tzeentch manipulates, the more fragile the world becomes, ripe for Nurgle's slow, inevitable touch of ruin. Together, these dark powers form a dissonant but harmonious whole, each serving their own purpose in the endless cycle of entropy and rebirth.
Cool. Yeah, so he's kind of just like, I like Slaanesh because your behavior is going to lead you to entropy quicker. I like Khorne because your behavior is going to lead you to entropy quicker. Chinch is funny. His behavior usually leads to entropy quicker,
Exactly. Like it's like we said, he just has to wait. And he will eventually find, like, even if none of the other chaos gods existed, like, just imagine a world like our own where none of them existed except for Nurgle. He would be fine because all things decay. No matter what, he's always going to be around. Like, it just is what it is. If we created a world where we're like, look, guys, no more war. No more war. We're all going to be on the same page. No more war. We don't want war. We're not going to kill anybody. Or if we are going to kill people, it's going to be bloodless. Khorne's just like, oh, God.
Why?
Like,
why would you do this?
Why would you do this to me? And we're not going to have excessive, depravities and stuff like that. You can find a world, like, it will not ever actually happen, but you can think of something where it's like, there's always going to be a world where decay and death happens, but maybe murder doesn't. Maybe excess and all of the depravity that Slaanesh happens doesn't. Tzeentch, I think, is the only other rival because everything changes.
Sure.
Right?
That kind of, let's expand that question. Let's take that microscope off it there. So if you're talking about on a planetary scale, let's talk to a galactic scale, like one galaxy over. Like Nurgle probably is one galaxy over, because just like over here, decay and all that is happening there. And like you said, on that small scale, you can find a galaxy that doesn't have any war in it, and Khorne might not have any power there. But then, we go to Chinch again, where like, okay, change also is inevitable. Death is inevitable, but so is change. So you might find those two gods kind of spread out across galaxies.
Mhm.
Exactly. So
Cool.
I think it's really one of those things where Nurgle is, in fact, really one of those big things where he's all encompassing because of what he is a god of. Um, Murder and blood, everything like that. Yeah, it's probably never going to happen where there's a bloodless galaxy, but there is a possibility where there's no real possibilities where things won't rot and decay. Maybe you won't rot and decay. Maybe you've got some serum that allows you to live forever, as an immortal. But things
Necrodermis.
around you
Yeah.
will. Yeah, exactly right.
Necrodermis looking at you.
God damn it! But everything around you is rotting and decaying. But even then, the necrodermis is rotting and decaying in some aspect
Just
because of
it's just so much slower though. You're right about
Yeah.
that.
yeah. So it's just one of those things where, like, I think no matter what he does, he's always going to be around.
Yeah. I like that. That really snapped that into perspective. Like we've talked about gods being in different galaxies many times, and we usually had that conversation in the scope of all of them together, not just focusing on one. Like, what are the chances one will be? And yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Now I know this is like we're talking about like how cool it is to be a Nurgle follower, but looking in the comments, Jax just comes out of nowhere with a fucking flamer and just torches the whole room with his hot takes.
Jax, you're getting the tisms all over the place.
Would you like me to read these comments, Mark?
Yeah, and I'll highlight them as you read.
That bitch Nurgle. So get this. He's convinced a lot of people IRL that he cares, which is very untrue. He's an asshole who loves despair and harming people, same as other chaos gods. He tortures an Eldar goddess and my boy Mortarion, who absolutely does not deserve that shit, figuratively and literally. He tortured the Death Guard to get Mortarion, one of the more caring Primarchs, to join him, all because he knows it will bring Mortarion to despair. Man, I hate Nurgle. And we'll skip that next part.
Wow, way
Corn
to
has
white
some
knight for
honor.
Mortarion there. Just really
Yeah.
like, oh, Mortarion can save the princess. Fucking get you.
Right?
So.
Exactly. No,
You leave those Xenos princesses alone.
leave them alone. That's for Robo Girly Man only.
Oh, here's one more comment. He benefits no one but himself. He focuses on death and rot and despair. In 40K, he is true evil, and we can't put him down for good. Okay.
Okay.
Let's maybe clear the air a little bit here.
Yeah.
Nurgle is bad. In reality, we are not for Nurgle.
Yeah.
If
All
we
the
were,
chaos gods are bad.
All chaos gods are bad.
All the chaos gods are bad now.
But what about Korn? He's honorable.
More skulls for the skull throne.
Yeah, that's funny. We really hit a nerve there for Jax, and now he's just silent, and there's no way for him to defend himself. That's what I really like about it.
40K Mario.
And there, okay, that's a nice rebuttal.
That. Princess Peach. Oh Jesus.
Oh man. All right, we're getting down to the last little bit of our notes here and the last little bit of the episode. We got a little bit left, but we're going to jump into Nurgle demons. And some of these we're going to read and others we're just going to briefly mention. But yeah, let's go through them. The demons of Nurgle, though monstrous in their form, carry with them the essence of resilience, an embodiment of rot, and the promise of rebirth. Their bloated, swollen bodies bear the marks of decay, their putrid flesh writhing and twitching, a living testament to the eternal cycle of corruption. Leprous skin peels and ruptures, spilling forth vile, vicious, precocious fluids, while the very bones seem too big and sag and bend under the weight of their own slow, unrelenting decay. But beneath this grotesque visage lies an unsettling vitality. For all their corruption, these demons exude a particular warmth, a twisted joy that pulses from the very marrow of their being. Their laughter, sickly and deep, echoes through the air, a song of persistence in the face of death. Their delight in the process of decay, reveling in each new liaison. Each fresh wound that marks growth, each groan of their victim is a music to their ears, a signal of their unholy work, bringing forth the world's rebirth through death and disease. For in their rot they see not an end, but a new beginning, as the very fabric of life reshapes itself under the ever watchful gaze of the putrid Lord. I wonder if, and we won't have an answer for this, as this is a huge question, but I wonder, like, if Nurgle knows that at the end of the universe, when everything ends, if another big bang happens and the spark of life and the cycle of life begins anew, and it's always, everything is this scale, whether we're looking at the small life form scale or even the cosmic scale. Hard to say.
Yeah. It's yeah, you don't really know how to, like,
There's no good
six
answer.
one,
It's
half
just,
dozen the other.
yeah. That's just things you think about in the middle of the night when you're taking a shit, and then you go back to bed like a normal person.
So you're not
I'm
only
gonna wake up with a fever dream.
so not only were we acting in service to Nurgle, we're thinking about things in service to Nurgle. So
Yeah, exactly.
I know we like to apply like what he does to like a biological level, but that kind of makes me wonder, like, so what scale does this does he have this grasp? Like the heat death of the universe, does he have any kind of control over that, or is that part of his domain, even though it's not necessarily like a living being like you and me?
Yeah.
So that's
and like just because
theory.
it's the end of our universe, the warp is a different universe, so it would in theory live on, and if our universe was rebirthed or whatever, Nurgle would still be there, like ready to go again.
For sure.
Fun.
Yep. Crazy.
Okay, so we got some demon princes, and we got a quote finally. Okay, this is a quote from Demon Prince Galfirth. That's how I'm going to say it. Addressing the diseased inhabitants of the conquered city of Kula 7. Rejoice, children! Your father brings you hope in your darkest hour. Let those who would accept his gifts come forth and receive the blessings of the Lord of Decay. Cast away your crutches and doubts. Put aside beliefs in a false master who fills your hearts with lies, sorrow, and regrets. Embrace in the glorious gifts of rot and decay. Revel in the beauty of putrescence and be reborn a living symbol of perseverance.
Yeah, cool. Become the demon prince. Get the blessings. Get the honor. Get the girl.
Right.
Isha, of course.
Tell that girl you have the body of a god.
Yeah. Yeah, Nurgle recommends locking women up in your basement. That's the Nurgle approach to dating. Lorehammer Legal, however, does not recommend that approach. So just to clarify that.
Neither does Grimlore Legal, since we also covered Nurgle there too.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a cool quote. We wrote a bunch of information about the demon princes, greater demons, but maybe we'll just summarize them so we can get to some call-ins. Yeah, demon princes are what you expect. They're mortals that fell to chaos, and what I kind of picture a different animal and then turn that into some type of demon prince. Like the fly is very common. A maggot demon prince, like anything gross and crawly almost, you can kind of demify that. Get a cool kind of unique demon prince that way.
Yeah.
We got greater demons, and in the greater demons, they're the great unclean ones, and they look very much like Nurgle, and they pretty much are Nurgle in essence. Like they would do the exact same thing as Nurgle would want to do. Yeah, they're just towering, pus-infected, bloated, disease nightmare creatures. But they're happy, so that's nice.
Exactly. They're so happy.
Then we jump to the lesser demons, and we got another fun quote here. We got 2 of them actually. So maybe Brody, read this first quote for the plague bearers if you want.
Yeah. Buboes, phlegm, blood and guts, boils, boogies, rotten pus, blisters, fevers, weeping sores. From your wounds the fester pours. Chant sung by plague-bearer demons during battle.
Very cool. Yeah, the plague bearers demons are very interesting in the way they operate. They're almost dual fold. Like in a sense, they're almost all demon princes, but the key difference is they don't have power to wield. So yeah, plague bearers, they're all the corrupted souls of mortals who have embraced Nurgle's blessings. So yeah, you know, there's that guy who's covered in pustules. When he dies, his soul then goes to Nurgle's garden and is reborn as a plague bearer, as like this, you know, lesser demon of Nurgle. So that's pretty cool how that operates. It's pretty different than the other gods. Up next, we got Nurglings, which, you know, they're kind of like great unclean ones, but smaller, more mischievous. They're just like these little fat babies that are just like gross, covered in snot, but always laughing and happy. So that's kind of nice about them. I found this one cool kind of subcategory of Nurgling called glitchlings, and maybe I'll read that here. Oh man, fuck! I skipped over the other quote of plague bearers. Gerald, do you have that pulled up?
Yeah. So many wondrous joys, so many hopes and dreams. Oh, Plaguefather, your gifts are boundless. Still, I will make an accounting of them.
Nice.
Pustmaw, plague bearer of Nurgle.
Nice. You gotta take account for how many diseases you got. You gotta be the first one to get them all.
There actually is a, I think it's in Age of Sigmar, there is a Nurgle model called the Tallyman of Nurgle. So
I think he exists in 40K too.
I think you're right.
Hey, Mr. Tallyman, tally me pustules.
Oomba wumba falumba shit. That's a fun song. Glitchlings. Glitchlings are strange, corrupted manifestations of Nurgle's power, lesser demons born from the broken and decaying technology that would long abandoned. These bizarre creatures appear as twisted amalgamations of decayed organic matter and malfunctioning machines. Their bodies a chaotic mess of rusted gears, shattered circuits, and putrid flesh. Their forms flicker and distort as if the very fabric of existence is a glitch in the constantly shifting between moments and physical cohesion and entropy. They scuttle erratically, their movements jagged and unpredictable, often accompanied by the grinding of malfunctioning machinery and cacophony of static. Their eyes, a glowing of unnatural light, gleam from beneath the layers of twisted metal and rotting skin, exuding an eerie sense of both disease and malfunction. Like all Nurglings, lesser demons glitchily spread unholy blessings. They do so in a manner that is both strange and unsettling, by infecting and disrupting technology itself. Turning once pristine machines into festering, corrupted tools of destruction. Their mere presence causes systems to fail, engines to seize, and data to decay. A reminder that even the most advanced creations cannot escape the inevitable decay of Nurgle's eternal grasp. Yeah, man, anytime there's a glitch in this machine, all of a sudden you're like, fucking glitchling. Is my machine possessed by glitchlings? No, Mark, you just need to clean your computer. It's old. Not everything's a glitchling.
I'm telling you right now, the glitchlings are everywhere.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
I'm not gonna lie, that's sick. I love the idea of like these amalgamations of machine and flesh, and how they're somehow more machine than they are flesh, and they're more diseased than a machine could ever truly be, and therefore it makes them like have like a glitch, and they're just like, bah! And then now they're not there anymore, and you're like, Like, how do you try? You see that you're an Imperial Guardsman. You're on a world, and you're just like, Sergeant, I swear, it was a machine. It was oozing. And then, bang, it wasn't there anymore. And that's when I shot Doug, who was behind it.
That's when the las rifle malfunctioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
You forget Imperial Guardsmen. This is like a good lore reason to have Necrons fight Nurgle. Like, but like, like for as far as I know, for most of for lore reasons, like Necrons don't really fool with chaos that much because it's like immaterium. But you have an avenue for this. It's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. I like that idea.
Yeah. It's cool too how this kind of expands. You know, very early in this episode, we talked about first Nurgle corrupts your mind, and then he corrupts your body, and then he corrupts your car. But he has an ability to, like it's not just flesh that he decays. It's everything, as we've mentioned so many times in this episode, even machines.
Yeah.
And then we get into the beasts of Nurgle. They're just like a weird pile of like. Just imagine like a squished hot dog with legs walking around with a mouth on it. It's like this weird like flesh thing. And it has like the mindset of a puppy. So it's like happy to see you wagging its weird little lumpy tail at you. It's gross. Don't like it.
There's a little lumpy tail.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to have a dog like out there's got a lumpy tail. Don't talk about Pumpkin like that.
Pumpkin's a good dog. I don't apologize often, but I will apologize to Pumpkin the dog. I did not mean to offend you. You are not a beast of Nurgle.
You're not a beast of Nurgle.
Oh no.
We also have many flies. There are different types of flies, from rot flies to battle flies to bloat flies to plague flies. Some flies like to lay eggs in you. Some like to just shit on you. Some like to be ridden into battle. Some just spread disease. All types of flies. A fly for every day of the week, really.
Fly for every occasion. Just like in fly fishing. The fly not fishing. Yeah, it's a good time.
And the other beasts we have are the musculoid. I think that's just like a fancy word for snail, essentially. But yeah, snails, slime, gross, I guess. They like to have snail mounts, apparently. Slow. What's the deal with the snail? Why is that kind of tied in?
I don't know. I think it might be like having to do with because like snails and slugs are found in gardens. Like it's that whole garden thing again. Like you find them in gardens. They are slimy and kind of gross, and
they kind of they're the kind of animals that feed off of the dead things, so that way. Yeah, they feed off of the dead things, so that way new life can regrow from like, because like, what am I trying to say here? Nurgle feeds into death and rebirth, but you can't have too much death, otherwise there won't be no rebirth. Basically,
yeah,
it's a good way to put it.
Cool. Yeah. No, that's a great kind of observation about the snails and just how they kind of manage that right amount of death needed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the feculent normal. Maybe like 20 episodes ago, we did a cool herborium and bestiary episode. And we talked about warp-specific creatures. And in that episode, we talked a lot about the Garden of Nurgle and all the different trees that they had there. So maybe definitely check out that episode if you're more interested in like some of the living creatures and trees. They have all types of trees where when you die, the tree will devour you and drink your blood, and then you will be thrown to the side like a little seedling and be born into a new tree. All types of weird, crazy horrors.
And the feculent normal actually does have a model. So you can look at it on DW's website.
I love that model. I used to use it all the time for my Iron Warriors. As long story short, not going to tell you it. That's my secret. Go listen to another episode Lorehammer did. We also got demon engines of Nurgle. They're pretty cool. This like weird... Oh man, like the glitchings adds a new kind of element actually to the demon engines. I can just imagine a bunch of glitchlings like on these tanks as they're being corrupted and like slowly turned into demon engines. Yeah.
exactly, right? Like you think of some of the vehicles and stuff from like the Death Guard range, like the Myphitic Blight Hauler, and the I can't remember what the other one's called. It's like a drone. But they are all like demon engines, right? Like there's definitely something alive in there, but
Yeah.
it's definitely also a machine. Not good. So the Photide bloat drone, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the other one.
Yeah. All types of crazy demon engines. Gotta fly, slap a jet engine on the back of it. Demon engine. I can tell you.
Exactly.
The final part that we're going to read here, Brody, if you want to read this last little bit, and it's on the Plague Legion. So when you smash all these demons together, what do you get?
Well, see, Mark, you get plague legions.
That's how you get a Plague Legion, Mark.
You get the demonic legions of Nurgle are not mere chaotic swarms, but a deliberate cycle of birth, decay, and rebirth. Each legion represents a distinct stage in Nurgle's relentless garden of transformation. Their mission to spread pestilence, agony, and death, ensuring the growth of their master's twisted garden. The plague legions born from the land of the plague lord carry Nurgle's endless bounty. The fecundous legions concoct new diseases, gathering vile ingredients for their god's cauldron. The infectious legions are the harbingers of these sicknesses, setting the stage for greater afflictions. The pathogenous legions are diseases in full bloom, devastating both in attack and defense. The epidemic legions expand relentlessly, turning initial victories into virulent outbreaks. The rot legions cultivate decay, ensuring that everything they touch withers. The morbidus legions harvest death, while the necrotis legions stand resilient, using despair as their weapon. Each legion is guided by a great unclean one, a greater demon who leads with the nurturing yet destructive touch of a parent. Their leadership is eccentric, often favoring different methods of warfare. Some prefer airborne plague drones, others rely on plague bearers or beasts of Nurgle. As the great unclean one matures, they cycle through the stages of decay, from fecundus to rot to necroticus, only to bloom anew with fresh disease to begin the cycle again. Beneath them are the leaders of each Taliban, demon princes or heralds with titles befitting their grotesque nature. The Taliban swell or shrink, expanding with Nurgle's strength and contracting when it wanes. At full power, a Taliban consists of 7 packs of plague bearers or plague drones, occasionally bolstered by beasts or Nurglings. Yet even these are fleeting, their presence tied to the whims of the cycle.
I love how even these big, great, unclean ones follow this cyclical pattern, where even in these legions, it's like, yeah, you go to this one, you follow the stages of the rot, and then eventually you're reborn yourself. Cool how much they tie that all in.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really interesting that each legion is its own section of disease, decay, and death, and everything like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's very cool how you have like you can, because I always thought like to myself, like if I was playing Death Guard, or sorry, if I was playing Nurgle demons as like an army, I always kind of thought to myself, they're just Nurgle demons. The Nurgle demons are Nurgle demons. The legions of Nurgle. Woo. But now I'm like, you could have some really unique and interesting armies that you could craft and create based off of which legion you would like it to be.
Yeah, like, are
And
you
the
just
way,
getting out there and spreading disease, or is your disease in full bloom and like your philosophy is more like the philosophy of champions because everything's like amped up and good to go? Yeah.
yeah,
And the other
yeah,
interesting thing to
exactly.
point out, with these legions, Fecundus, Infectus, pathogenous, epidemic, rot, morbidius, and necroticus. Seven different
7
types of
legions.
legions.
Yeah, fucking cool.
Yeah.
And see, and this is what I'm saying about that color, Nurgle's color. You know, all these other symbols, they have power and meaning behind them, but apparently we just don't care when it comes to color, and that's fine. I'll get over it, I'm sure.
The other thing too is like when we were talking about this and the whole color thing, this is another one where it would be just amazing to have some of these for like different colors for each legion. Like in my eyes, the um which one was it? The rot legions, they should be um rot to me is like uh I would say like black. Like the end of rot is black, right?
Sure.
And but the Necroticus Legion, that's green to me. Like I would definitely have like it's necrotic and green, like gangrene
Yeah.
is what like I think with that. And like the epidemic legions are like boils and pustules, but everything's the
Yellows
same
then,
kind of
eh? Like,
skin tone or like a or whatever, right? Like it's very
oh,
different and interesting. Yeah, how each legion could have that different color, but it all kind of comes back. I think you would be able to use green in every single one of them or brown. But yeah,
And one
yeah.
more thing
good. I
about the
like it.
color, like just pitch your Nurgle army against an orc player or just orcs in general, because they're definitely going to assign power to whatever color you give them. Because obviously green is the best color, don't you know?
Obviously. Cool. Well, the fun episode. Let's get to Collins right away. Lots of people on the list here. Let's get to Liar. Welcome to the show.
Hey
How's it
boys, can you
going?
hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Howdy.
Coming in.
Good, good. How you doing?
Yeah. So let's do a health check. So far, none of us have a runny nose or a coughing, so we haven't been blessed by Nurgle.
Well, my throat has been sore all day actually, so I think
Oh,
I'm getting there. I think this
so
episode was
you're the
predestined.
chosen.
You know.
Now here's the real question, Liar. Did you start feeling this way right after Mark announced that it was Nurgle tonight or
Oh fuck
Nurgle
no!
this morning?
I woke up with it. I got a text to my fiance being like, "Yo, babe, throat's hurting."
And then
I
you
got
check
that
the Discord
same
and you're like,
message,
God
but for
damn it,
different
Mark.
reasons.
Yeah, and then it was preordained. Mark just knew what was coming. It's great.
Yeah. Lorehammer lives to serve. So how do you feel about Nurgle and his affliction so far? Are you enjoying it? You want more? You want to see what
Oh
Nurgle has
yeah.
to offer?
You know, I will revel in this sickness. I love it. It's feeling good. I used to be a Slanesh guy, but I think you sold me. I think you sold me on Papa Nurgle. I want his hug right now. It's what I need in my life.
Well, I'm
Embrace
happy
me, Daddy.
I'm happy we won over another Nurglite, I guess. I've been thinking about like the cult of Nurgle, which is kind of the mortal followers that follow him around, and how many different cool ways you can kind of incorporate it. Like I can't wait to talk about kind of different Xenos that incorporate Nurgle, like the Hrud, for example, and how it's not, like we said, it's not just limited to humans, it's everything gets affected.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, everything decays down to the last fucking atom. Even that'll decay someday. Protons, they'll decay. Like, no matter what, Nurgle wins. It all just leads back to him.
Yeah. Even like energy, like let's use weird analogies, and like the warp is a battery that stores the energy of warp beings, specifically Nurgle. But like, man, even batteries, they don't hold charges forever, and even eventually Nurgle himself will decay. Like if the universe rots away and there's nothing left, then there's nothing left to feed him, and then he rots and decays away, and then that's ultimately a good thing for him as well, I suppose.
Yeah, does that feed Nurgle when he himself decays?
Yeah.
I just got like this idea in my head where like you know how everybody always says like energy, like if you die, like energy can't disappear, right? The energy always
Yeah,
goes somewhere, right?
Energy is neither created or destroyed. It's always
Yeah.
just transferred. Yeah.
Exactly. What if for Nurgle, his reliance on the energy from the material plane is what powers everything else, right? Like the whole transfer of energy. So if the world, like everything that you see in the immaterium in the warp is just the energy that has died from the material world.
Yeah.
For sure.
God
I
of
can take
time,
that.
God of energy,
God
God
of
of
time,
death,
God of
God of decay,
Mhm.
God of entropy.
Lord of
Well,
all.
he's not, but he
Lord-
is.
the Lord of all.
Lord
He
of
is
all.
Papa
powerful.
bless.
We shall be supplications
Praise
to you.
Nurgle.
Can I get an amen? Hallelujah.
Exactly.
Amen.
All right, Liar. If you had
Lovely.
one gift or blessing you could have from Nurgle, what would it be before we let you go?
Oh, just, the ability to touch everybody else with my plague, which I'm at work right now already doing. So this is perfect.
A
I'm already
real
blessed.
I love
giver.
that for you.
Cough on everything here.
That's funny. You're going around the workplace and just licking door handles and shit. Just
Yeah,
spreading
for sure.
disease.
Never wash my hands, of course.
Nice. Good. Okay. Doing Nurgle's work. Well, good for you. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for the call in, and we'll let you go here. Get to somebody else.
Good night, guys.
All right. Thanks, Liar. Up next we got Grim. Give me a little nod here. Welcome to the show, homie.
How's it going, fellas? I just want to start this
Good.
off with bring out your dad. Bring out your dad.
Yes, I feel validated.
Dead.
Yeah.
I think that was like memeing him into existence the way you guys did. I was on the floor laughing. I'm trying to like build a model and I'm sitting here like fucking giggling away, man. It's beautiful. I felt like a nerdling.
Now,
Our gas is all in this room. It's beautiful.
Now, I got to tell you, Grim, I think it needs a little more cowbell.
Poor cowbell.
I always gonna love that.
Oh, man.
I'm telling you right now, it needs more plague bell.
All right. One last one.
Audio gold. Just
Oh,
audio
editors.
perfection. I love it. Oh, man. So, Grim, you're a fan of Nurgle? What's your vibe of this episode and this topic?
Yeah, I've always really liked Nurgle as a chaos god. I really like how you guys brought a lot of light to. It's always just time, what it comes down to. However, I really wish that you guys did get into some of the demon princes, because there's one named demon prince that really comes to mind, and that's Mammon. He was like that false prophet of the Imperium truth on Varax, I believe it was. So I had that model. Honestly, he was probably one of my favorite models to play, and everyone just hated him. He's got this putrid canister of fuck knows what behind him, and he's just shooting that from a cannon.
That's what it's
Awesome.
labeled.
It might be. I don't think it is.
Yeah. Well, as much as I like to say soon TM and apologize for not filling episodes 5 hours long. When doing the Chinch episode, man, I'm like, man, this needs to be 3 episodes. Like, name characters need their own episode. And then the cults in general need their own episode where we can dive into Mortarion and Typhus and, some of these kind of legions or cultists or whatever cool kind of things are out there involving the mortals followers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there a disease or a blessing of Nurgle that you wish you had that we can all be praying for you for?
All of it. I want to be patient 0 or patient 1 or whatever you want to call it for everything. I think Liar put it ever so perfectly. He just wants to hug everyone and give them his sickness. So praise be with
you. Cool. Well, we'll leave it at that. There's a couple more we're going to try to get to. Grim, thanks a lot. Okay, one more because I know my editors, they're like, if you get too many audio files, it becomes a nightmare. So one more person, and it's between Jax and Seth, first person to respond to the chat. And we'll just do some show notes here while we're waiting. If you want to buy anything, do we inspire you this episode to go start a Nurgle army? Probably. I know I want Nurgle now. So go to Merlin's Miniatures and use promo code Lorehammer. And yeah, you can get some discounts, join their mailing list for 15% off, and you help support the show when you do that. Also, come check out the Lorehammer Listener Lore podcast. Lots of fun. I read your homebrew lore, and yeah, it's a heck of a good old time reading your homebrew lore.
Do we have a winner in the chat here?
I think we are gonna go with Jax, it seems like. So hey, Jax, welcome.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, doing good. Have
right,
you
all
been
right.
blessed by Nurgle? Because your camera's off, so I can only assume that you're covered in pusses and you're just saving us your gross visage.
No,
Maybe
I'm
the
looking
glitch
great.
name
You
comes
know why?
from-
Because I despise Nurgle with all my being. I hate that son of a gun so much.
You're just jealous that you're not with Isha, I think.
Right.
60% the reason, but 40% the reason is still up in the air. So
That's 60%.
60% of the time, it works. Every time.
Every time.
exactly.
Yeah, so why do you hate him? I know we read your long messages and went down that little rabbit trail with you, but like, why? Come on.
He's just like, all right, with Erebus, right? He gets his comeuppance. He's an asshole. He deserves it. And he gets it by getting flayed, getting beaten the shit out by Karn, and all that. But Nurgle gets no flack for everything he does. He actually tricks people in real life that he's a good god, that he cares. He doesn't give a crap about you. He cares only about despair. Like randomly, he will like lift the blessing on his followers and show them what they truly are. And by that time, they will like despair so much that they're like, "Oh no, kill me!" And then he puts the blessing back on them, only for it to happen like a few more times that day. He, as a god, is like the personification of evil in the galaxy. He will, like in the book, Dark Imperium, he goes after Ultramar, that system. He doesn't go after the capital. He doesn't go after the strong planets. He infects just some random soldier and goes after a hospital world. He isn't about honor. He isn't about good. He doesn't care about you. And he will just screw you over if he has the chance. More so than Zeech. I'm sorry.
I think
am
the
ranting
chat's
so much. I hate
disagreeing
Nurgle.
with you. Yeah, the chat's disagreeing. Liar says Jax is a K-pop fan, mad at his idol's boyfriend. That bleeds true for sure. Liar says I think so too, bro. So the chat's not too happy with you. Jax, you'll meet him too. He's
hill.
inevitable. And that's good for Nurgle. That's what we want from you, Jax.
That hill needed some flowers, and you're going to be the perfect soil for them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey,
go die on that vomit hill.
When I die, if I go to Nurgle, I'm messing up whatever I can.
When we get to
the
more,
he's a god. I am just some normal human, but he shall know that I don't like him.
when we get to the Morty and Death Guard episodes, you better show up with this much fervor for them, like you do freaking Curs in the night.
Oh, I will.
Just saying. Okay,
Mortarion,
good.
Mortarion doesn't deserve half the shit he gets from Mortarion, and people hate Mortarion more than Nurgle, which I found astonishing. Like at least Mortarion cares for like people sometimes. Nurgle doesn't give a rat's ass about you and will actively screw you over more than Zeech if he has the chance.
I just don't know if I could take any more of that Nurgle slander, to be honest with you.
Whew. I feel like the three of us are going to get hit with all like the worst plagues and poxes just because we let that slander on.
Yeah, like I let him go on for so long before I booted him, before I realized, oh wait, I'm in control here, not Jax. Get out of here. You don't get a slander my boy Nurgle. Not on my watch.
Okay.
And he's still going. He is still going. I hate Nurgle.
It's so funny.
I love your determination, good sir. I applaud
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, you're a good sport, Jax. We love having you around. Hey, come join the Discord. It's been a lot of fun this episode. We have things going on there all the time. This episode's at an end. We learned a lot about Nurgle. Like I said, we're not done yet. I can easily think of 2 more episodes that this episode spawned. So stay tuned for the Lore Hammer. I came up with this fun tagline today. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only lore. And, I snickered to myself, and then I don't know what I did with my life, but thanks everyone for listening. We have a couple new Patreon members today. Thanks for donating, Philippe, and that's really all. So thanks a lot for that. Brody, Gerald, thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Always like being here.
Yeah, next, let's do a quick little. Go for it, Gerald.
Oh, I was just going to say one final note before we actually end off. There is a group called Endless Taverns. You can look them up on Spotify. There is a song called Embrace the Rot. It is solely dedicated to Nurgle. They also have other songs dedicated to the other Chaos Gods, but give Embrace the Rot a listen. We don't have time for me to go over the lyrics, but just give it a listen. It is really cool.
Yeah, very cool. And the next time we have you boys on will be in a week, and we're doing we're doing the Gork and Mork Greenskin Gods episode. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Hells yeah.
Hells yeah. All right. Adios, everyone.
See y'all later.
Good night.